I'm going to try to beat Pokemon Emerald Hard Mode. This is a version of the game where all trainer Pokemon have their levels increased by 50%, so by the end of the game, random trainers will have Pokemon in the mid-level 60s. As if that's not hard enough, I also won't be using any healing items during battles and won't be using setup moves. Also, we're playing on set mode, so no switches between KOs. Let's get started. So originally, when I planned to make this video, I wanted to pick Mudkip since he's the best starter in these games by far. But that would maybe make things a bit too easy. Then I decided to use Trico since he doesn't get much love. But once I looked up his moveset, I realised why.
Trash!
After that, I decided Torchic was a nice middle ground. I call our starter Leo and he's got a rash nature, which boosts his special attack and lowers special defense. I train up to level 8 to match Brendan's Mudkip and we actually have an issue. He learned Mudslap at level 6, which does super effective damage to us, and he actually takes us down. I try again at level 11, and this time we miss a bunch of our attacks because of the accuracy drops. But just as we're about to go down, Torchic gets a lucky crit for the one shot. So the last time I did a hard mode challenge, I only used a team of 3 Pokemon, but this time I want to see how a bigger team impacts the run. I start by catching a Ralts on Route 102, and I must be the luckiest guy in the world because Daedalus has a modest nature. He and Torchic tear through the early game, and Leo evolves into Combuskin as we arrive in Rustboro City. Before we head into the first gym, I decide to catch one more team member, a Whismur. I know Exploud is far from the best Pokemon in the world, but Normal is one of my favourite types. Boring! And I always liked these guys' designs too. I catch this one, who I call Clarice. Unfortunately, she's completely useless into the first gym, so it's just Combuskin and Ralts for now. I start with Daedalus at level 15, and Roxanne's Geodude is 18. Confusion does just under half, and her Rock Tomb takes out most of our health and lowers our speed, so she can kill us next turn with Rock Throw. I bring out Combuskin and our double kick misses the kill, so she takes about half our health with another Rock Tomb. Thankfully, Roxanne wastes a potion here as Geodude goes down to another double kick. Her second Geodude hits us to 11 HP, but we heal some health back with our Orange Berry. Roxanne then wastes another potion as Combuskin is still able to outspeed after 2 defense drops and get the kill on Geodude number 2. Last is Nosepass, who's 6 levels higher than us, and she's able to outspeed and kill Combuskin with 1 Rock Tomb. Well, that wasn't awful. I'll get Ralts and Combuskin up to level 18 and try again. This time, Confusion does half to Geodude, and she just goes for Defense Curl, so Ralts is still at full health as Geodude goes down. Then, against the next Geodude, we get a critical hit Confusion for the one shot. Last is Nosepass, and I just go for Growl here, thinking Ralts would go down. For some reason, Roxanne decides not to attack us for 7 turns in a row, so we're able to get her down to half health where she eats her berry. Since we lowered her attack, she does hardly any damage to us, and we manage to confuse her, so within a few turns, she takes herself down, getting us the first gym badge.
Supreme victory!
While fighting some of the optional trainers on Route 116, Daedalus gets to level 20 and evolves into Curlier. Next is the fighting gym, and Daedalus is only level 23, while Brawly's Makuhita will be 29. Things start off well as we manage to confuse Machop, and he hits himself in confusion, so Brawly uses a super potion as we take Machop down. Next is Meditite, but his only attacking move is Focus Punch, so as long as we keep clicking confusion, it's a guaranteed win. Then against Makuhita, confusion does good damage, but he just goes for a bulk up. After healing with his berry, he lives another confusion in the red, and goes for another bulk up. So that's 2 gyms now completely swept by Daedalus. So Watson's Manectric is going to be level 36, and my team is not going to stand a chance with our current levels. I decide to do a bit of training on Route 110. I give the experience share to Whismur, and I start by training Curlier from 24 to 26 where he learns Psychic. Then I get Combuskin from 19 to 26 as well, and in the process, Whismur gets to level 25, learns Stomp, and evolves into Loudred. We're still really underleveled, but this should hopefully get us through the next portion of the game. After fighting the rest of the trainers on Route 110, we start with Clarice into the next rival fight. Lombre hits a weak fake out, but doesn't do much damage as he goes down to a few stomps. Next is Slugma, arguably one of the worst Pokemon ever. He goes down to 1 stomp. Then it's Marshtomp up at level 30. Stomp does about a third, but he hits a strong Mud Shot which lowers our speed. Thanks to him missing, we hit 1 more Stomp before going down. Thankfully, Curlier can come out and kill Marshtomp with a Psychic. Beating our rival here unlocks loads of trainers for us to fight around Morville City, and I decide to chase down every last one of them. I mainly use Curlier for this, which gets him to level 30 where he evolves into Gardevoir.
Are y'all boys or a girl? I have a question because...
After beating the rest of the trainers, our team is looking pretty strong, so let's see if we can take down Watson. A Voltorb and a Victrike go down to 1 Psychic each, so let's fast forward to Magneton. I would switch to Combuskin to hit super effective double kick, but if Watson goes for a Shockwave on the switch, Leo would take a lot of damage. I decide to let Gardevoir go down here, but he ends up surviving for 6 whole turns, which is enough to take Magneton down. Manectric is last, and a Psychic does more than half. He heals with his Citrus Berry as he goes for a Howl. A Shockwave does big damage and we get fully paralysed, so Quick Attack finishes off Gardevoir. I switch in Clarice, who heals a Thunder Wave with a Cherry Berry, just to get paralysed by Static after a Stomp. Then Manectric hits a critical Shockwave for the one shot. I bring in Combuskin last, but unfortunately Ember is too weak and he takes us down. I think if we get a bit more luck we should be able to win. This time, the fight with Magneton still goes on for a while, but he manages to take Daedalus down since our Cherry Berry was used up by a paralysis from Voltorb. I switch in Leo, who dodges a Sonic Boom and takes Magneton down with an Ember. Manectric howls and I go for Ember again, and we get a burn. Not too useful against a special attacker, but I'll take it. Shockwave still really hurts, and on the next turn he takes Combuskin down. I bring out Clarice last. Another howl means we get a free hit of Stomp. This time, Shockwave doesn't crit, so one more Stomp takes him down. On Route 113, we can catch our next team member, a Skarmory who I call Reina. Skarmory is a really cool Pokemon that I don't think I've ever used before. I would give her the experience share right away, but I decide to first use Leo as much as I can until he gets to level 36, where he Blaze Evolves into Blaziken and learns Blaze Kick. Now, we can head to the fight with Maxie on Mount Chimney. He starts with Mightyena, who lowers our attack with Intimidate. I don't think Double Kick will get the kill, so I go for Blaze Kick instead, which brings him low into the yellow. He brings us to +1 attack with a Swagger, which pays off right away as we hit ourselves in confusion while Maxie heals. Thankfully, we break through on the next turn and take Mightyena down with Double Kick. This brings out Camerupt, who lives another Double Kick with about a third and kills us with an Earthquake. He doesn't know Earthquake here normally, which means the 50% level increase has made him learn his new level up moves. This happened with a couple of trainers in my Platinum video, but it seems like in Emerald it's happening with most Pokemon. I bring out Loudred here, who gets a crit with a Secret Power as Maxie heals Camerupt, so one more hit takes him down. Last is Zubat, who... Flannery starts with Numel and I lead Blaziken. I go for a double kick to bring him into the yellow, then he misses his takedown, so a single kick gets the kill. Second is Slugma, who also lives a double kick and sets up a Sunny Day before going down to 3 more kicks. This brings out Camerupt at level 39. She takes another double kick really well and hits an Attract. We get her into the red, but she heals up. I switch to Skarmory on a Sunny Day to shake off the Attract, and we switch back to Blaziken on a very strong Overheat, which we just live. We go for 2 more kicks before going down to tackle. Camerupt never went for Earthquake here, which must mean gym leaders have predetermined movesets which won't change. I bring out Clarice, who takes a tackle and brings Camerupt down with 2 returns, which I taught by the TM from Fall Arbor Town. So last is Torkoal, who's up at level 44. I go for Secret Power, hoping for a paralysis, but we don't get it and we die to an Overheat. Gardevoir comes out and a Psychic does about 60%. Thankfully, her Body Slam doesn't paralyse us, so one more Psychic takes her down. There's not much to do between the 4th and 5th gyms, so let's head straight there. Against Norman, I start with Daedalus, who traces his own tempo from Spinder. He goes for a useless Teeter Dance, so he goes down with no issues. Next is Vigoroth, who's faster than us and hits a Facade. Thankfully, his Slash on the next turn doesn't crit, so we take him down. Then it's Slacking, who takes us down with a Feint Attack. I actually get pretty lucky against Slacking. When he attacks, he usually goes for Yawn, so I'm safe to switch between Leo and Reina. And get a few attacks in here and there. This goes well for a while, but he uses a Hyper Potion just as we're about to take him down. Then he goes for a Facade, which one-shots Leo. I bring out Clarice, who can paralyse him and get a critical hit return, but she goes down as soon as she gets hit. This just leaves Reina, who's way too low level to do any serious damage. We're fighting a Pokemon with a 670 base stat total who's 10 levels higher than my strongest Pokemon. Even with him only attacking every other turn, he still does way too much damage to us way too fast. I come back with Reina at level 36 and Clarice fully evolved at level 40. Once God of War goes down, I bring out Exploud who goes for a Screech. Then Slacking goes for a Yawn and we can hit Hyper Beam, which does about 2/3. Clarice goes to sleep here, so I switch in Skarmory, who can take attacks a lot better now. The Screech also lets us do pretty good damage with Steel Wing, and we burn through one of Norman's Hyper Potions. Just as things seem to be going well, Slacking takes us down with a counter. I bring out Leo, who can hit Double Kick to bring him low into the red. After another Hyper Potion, which seems like a lot for the 5th gym leader, a 3rd and 4th kick take him below half. Thankfully, Norman healed on his attacking turn, so this turn we're free to take him down with a 5th and 6th kick. This brings out Linoon, who does about half with the Facade, and our Overheat doesn't get the kill. Then we live a slash on 8 HP, and one more kick takes him down. Now that we have the 5th gym badge, we can get some really nice team upgrades. First, I go to visit our mum, who gives us the Amulet coin as a reward for beating our dad. Then, we surf across Route 103 to get back to Moorville, where we pick up the Thunderbolt TM and teach it to God of War. This lets us absolutely destroy all the water trainers around Slayport City, Dooford Town and Petalburg City. And, thanks to the Amulet coin, we can rinse them of their life savings. We can use this money to get a Flamethrower TM from the Game Corner, which I teach to Blaziken. I also picked up the Ice Beam TM from the Abandoned Ship, which I teach to Clarice. I want to quickly say, if you're enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and comment to let me know what videos you want to see from me. Next is Winona, who is done dirty by the game developers since we get Ice Beam and Thunderbolt right before her gym. First is Swablu, who lives a Thunderbolt but gets fully paralysed, so after Winona heals, she goes down to a few more hits. This brings out Tropius, so I switch to Clarice since she knows Ice Beam. Then I realise I should probably keep her healthy so we have an answer for Altaria. I switch again to Reina and go for Fly. Tropius' only attacking moves are Solar Beam and Aerial Ace, so we don't take too much damage as she goes down. Pelipper is next, and I switch to Daedalus, who takes her down with one Thunderbolt. Winona brings out her Skarmory next, and she actually lives a Thunderbolt, which I wasn't expecting, but all she does is miss a Steel Wing. Altaria's last, and I switch to Clarice on an Earthquake. Then a Dragon Breath does way more damage, somehow, and an Ice Beam takes her below half. Why does she have an Oran Berry? They only heal 10 HP, so they've been outclassed since like the 2nd gym. Even Watson had a Citrus Berry. Anyway, one more Dragon Breath takes down Clarice, but thankfully Daedalus can come in and get the kill with 2 Psychics. We're so much more low level than these trainers and we're kind of destroying them. I think it's about time we get a new team member. So far, having more Pokemon is making this a lot easier than Platinum, and I want to see how a team of 5 does.
5 New York girls! 5 New York girls!
We can fly now, so I head back to Route 110 and catch a Gulpin,
Are you stupid or something?
who we can use to catch our next team member. I want to use a Milotic since it's a really good Pokemon, especially in Generation 3. After doing some research, I found out what is allegedly the best way to catch a Feebas in Pokemon Emerald. This Reddit user made a guide which I'll link to in the description. Basically, you put a Gulpin with Sticky Hold at the front of your team. This makes it so you're more likely to find a wild Pokemon while you're fishing. On Route 119, Feebas has a 50% chance to be found with either the Old Rod, Good Rod or Super Rod. But the catch is, he only appears on a random 6 tiles out of 400. You're best off using the Old Rod since it lets you encounter a wild Pokemon much faster than the others. Also, Feebas appears at the same level regardless of which one you use. It took me an hour to find one, but eventually I find out that this tile here has Feebas on it. I catch quite a few more while I'm here, and I pick out this one, Percy, who has a quiet nature. Next, we need to increase his beauty stat to get him to evolve into Milotic. To make Pokeblocks which raise beauty, we need to use Surf on Route 115 to go and pick up Kelpie Berries. We can turn them into Pokeblocks using this minigame which rewards you even if you do it wrong. Then we feed them to Feebas and then we level him up, and finally we have a Milotic.
Yas Queen, Skinny Legend, Versace boots the house down, Slay Queen, Hunty Mama, and Oop Daddy work, Charlie X, yeah, snatch my whip!
Did I really just spend 2 hours trying to get a Pokemon? There are so many better things I could be doing with my life. I also teach him Surf, and I pick up another Ice Beam TM from the game corner to give him some coverage. Let's see how Percy does in the maxi fight in Mount Chimney. He starts with Mightyena, who goes for a taunt, and our Hydro Pump does about 2/3. For some reason, Maxi only has a Super Potion, so 2 more Surfs take him down. Next is Crobat, whose Air Cutter does good damage as our Ice Beam does under half and gets the freeze, even though we're inside a volcano next to a lake of lava. Anyway, even at level 60, Camerupt is no match for my strategy of clicking Surf once, and that wins us the fight. With that done, we can make our way to Moss Deep City, where I visit this guy who teaches one of your Pokemon Dynamic Punch. It's only got 50% accuracy, but we've been stuck with Double Kick since before the first gym, and it's going to be a while until we get another fighting move. Time for Tate and Liza, who are normally pretty easy if you have a Pokemon who knows Surf, but their Pokemon are all in the 60s, so I don't know how this is going to go. Xatu goes for Calm Mind, and Claydol hits a really strong Earthquake, which brings both Clarice and Percy below half. Thankfully, our Hydro Pump hits, and combined with a Shadow Ball, which we taught via the TM from Mount Pyre, that's enough to bring Claydol down. Lunatone is next, but Double Psychic takes down both of my Pokemon. I go for Thunderbolt with Daedalus and Steel Wing with Raina, but Lunatone is pretty defensive, and after a Calm Mind, Psychic hits us really hard. We get him into the red, but they use a Hyper Potion to get him back to full health. Skarmory goes down, and Leo replaces her just to go down to a follow-up Psychic from Xatu. This poor level 15 Numel, who I was using for strength, goes down too, which just leaves Daedalus. But both Xatu and Lunatone have set up quite a few Calm Minds by now, so we don't stand a chance. This time, I start with Raina and Gardevoir, who traces Claydol's Levitate. He goes for Earthquake on turn 1, which does nothing, and Xatu goes for Calm Mind, which lets us hit a free Thunderbolt and Steel Wing. Unfortunately, the AI is better than I expected, as Claydol doesn't just spam Earthquake. Thunderbolt still does pretty good damage to Xatu, but we miss our Steel Wing and then it's all downhill from there. They have 2 Hyper Potions, no one can take +1 Psychics very well, and Light Screen really limits our damage output. Thankfully, we've unlocked all the water routes now, so we have access to a lot of trainers we can go and fight for levels. I'm going to go and fight as many as I can and see where that gets us. I mostly try and use Clarice and Percy for the grinding, which gets them about 10 levels each. I lead with those 2, and after a Calm Mind from Xatu, Percy hits a Surf, which does really good damage to both Pokemon. Claydol then goes for an Earthquake, which Milotic takes pretty well, but it crits on Clarice, who goes for a Shadow Ball, which leaves Claydol in the yellow. I decide to switch out Clarice here since she could be useful later on, and Daedalus takes a +1 Psychic on the switch pretty well. Another Surf takes down Claydol and brings Xatu's health lower. Solrock is next, and he has Sunny Day and Solar Beam, so I need to take him down fast. I risk a Hydro Pump, and we get lucky as it hits and gets the 1-hit KO. This brings out Lunatone, who takes Gardevoir's Thunderbolt. I risk Hydro Pump again, and we hit again, so Lunatone goes down. This just leaves Xatu, who's now at +2 special attack and special defense. But thankfully, it's not too long until Ice Beams and Thunderbolts are able to take him down. Now we can take on the multi-battle with Steven against Team Magma. It's pretty easy, I'm just showing this because I thought it was weird how Steven's Pokemon are at their normal levels. Our next major fight is the battle with Archie. He starts with Mightyena, and I start with Leo since we haven't used him in a while. The endgame of Hoenn isn't a good place to be for a fire and fighting type. We outspeed to hit a strong Flamethrower, but Mightyena hits hard as well with a takedown. Then Archie uses a Super Potion and our next Flamethrower crits to finish him off. Next is Crobat, and I switch to Percy. Air Cutter does pretty much nothing, and Ice Beam does over half, and after a Super Potion, 1 more Ice Beam takes him down. Sharpedo's last, and I switch to Gardevoir as he prepares for a Skull Bash. He's faster than us and he hits really hard, but we can live and Thunderbolt is a one-shot. Now we can take on the last gym. I start with Gardevoir against Juan's Love Disc. She's faster and confuses us with a Sweet Kiss, which makes us hit ourselves. I switch to Leo to break the confusion, and then I switch back to Gardevoir. I start again, and this time Gardevoir has a Person Berry to cure the confusion. Love Disc just ends up missing, and then she's actually able to hang on from a Thunderbolt. This lets us use up one of Juan's Hyper Potions, as Love Disc hits a surprisingly strong Flail before going down. Crawdaunt comes out next, and he also lives a Thunderbolt, but we hang on from a crab hammer to take him down. Whiscash is next, and I just go for a psychic before we go down. Percy can come out and take him down with a few more surfs. This brings out Celio, and I switch to non-Seal Leo, who takes a body slam and thankfully doesn't get paralysed. I go for the coin flip with Dynamic Punch, and we get lucky and do about 2/3 of his health, plus he hits himself in confusion. Ban heals as a double kick does about 40%. I decide to risk it again by going for another Dynamic Punch, and we miss, but Celio hits himself again. This gives us another chance, and we take him down with one more punch. Kingdra's last, and he's 22 levels higher than us, so he obviously takes us down. I send out Clarice as he starts to set up double team. We actually get pretty lucky with not missing, but Kingdra's able to wear us down. I bring out Raina next, and I try to paralyse him with a secret power which crits, but no paralysis. She goes down too. I bring out Percy last, and all I can do is click Ice Beam and hope for the best. We miss a couple of them.
No! Yes! No!
But then, as Kingdra wakes up from rest, we hit an Ice Beam which gets the freeze. Kingdra stays frozen, and we're able to hit our next 2 Ice Beams to get the kill. I'm so thankful for that freeze. That battle could have gone on forever. Do you think we're about to see the first ever difficult Wally fight? Here's one last look at my team before the Elite Four. Our levels range from 50 up to 61, and the lowest level Pokemon in the Elite Four will be 69, so hopefully we can at least beat Sydney. We start with Leo into his Mightyena. We somehow outspeed, and Flamethrower does over half. He goes for a sand attack, but we hit on the next turn to take him down. Shiftry's next, and I switch to Raina to get rid of the accuracy drop. He goes for Swagger, and I decide to stay in to see if I can take advantage of the attack boost. Shiftry goes for a double team, and we manage to hit a critical hit Steel Wing to take him low into the yellow. Sydney heals, and we hit him again and get another critical hit. After a couple of misses from both of us, we take him down with a secret power. Crawdaunt is next, and we fly to dodge a surf, but it only does about 1/3 of his health before he finishes us off. Thankfully, God of War can outspeed and get the kill with Thunderbolt. Cactuarn's next, and I switch back to Leo. On the switch, he hits Cotton Spore to lower our speed. Then he hits Leech Seed, and a Flamethrower is just shy of the kill. Sydney heals, but after a couple more turns, Cacturn goes down. Absol is last, and I switch Leo out since he's a bit lower leveled, and I want him to stay alive to get the experience. Clarice takes a Rock Slide, but Absol sets up Swords Dance before we hit Hyper Beam. He lives and heals with his berry, then takes us down with a slash. I bring out Milotic, who lives a Rock Slide, doesn't flinch, and takes Absol down with Surf. That was a lot closer than I would have liked. Next is Phoebe. I start by setting up 3 layers of spikes against her first Dusclops, who can't do very much damage to us. We get confused on the 3rd turn, so I switch out to Leo, who goes for an Overheat that does just under half. We hang on from another Shadow Punch, but our special attack is down, so I switch to Skarmory. Unfortunately, Raina can't do nearly enough damage to this thing. I switch again into Percy, and he wastes our PP on Hydro Pump by going for Double Protect. Thankfully, another Hydro Pump does the job. Banette number 1 is next, and she hits a Shadow Ball for about half, and lives a Surf in the red. After a bit of healing, she gets one more hit on us before she goes down. Banette number 2 is slower than us, which lets us hit with Surf, but Percy goes down here. Then Leo can come out and finish her off with Flamethrower. Dusclops is next, and I go for Overheat, which does about half, but she takes us down with Earthquake. I bring out Clarice, who can't finish her off with a Shadow Ball, so Dusclops hits another strong Earthquake. After a few turns of Shadow Ball and Earthquake, we take her down. Sablei's last, and after our Shadow Ball brings her to about half, she takes us down. I send out Raina, who can do alright damage, but Sableye sets up a double team. I really should have taught Skarmory Aerial Ace. Thanks to Nightshade doing most of our health, she takes us down when we're 1 hit away from winning the fight. God of War's last, and I go for a Thunderbolt.
Oh no!
Which misses, so we go down. Yeah, that was pretty bad. We beat Sydney thanks to luck, but I'm too low leveled to stand a chance against the stronger members of the Elite Four. I'll rematch Sydney a few times until my team is all around the same level, and then I'll try again. We actually struggled a bit on the Sydney rematches, so I come back with everyone in the mid-60s. I set up spikes against Dusclops again, and then I switch to Leo, who can finish her off, since Dusclops took half her own health with Curse. This Bayonet knows Psychic, so I switch to Percy, who gets crit, but can outspeed and finish her off with Surf. The next Bayonet lives a Surf and goes for a Grudge. She ends up spamming Grudge every turn, so I have to switch between Percy and Clarice until she runs out of power points. Sableye next, who lives a Surf and sets up a double team. I decide to switch to Reyna, who can take her down with 4 aerial aces while hanging on at 15 HP. This just leaves Phoebe's second Dusclops, but since Milotic is an S tier Pokemon, we take her down with a Surf, a Hydro Pump, and another Surf. Glacier's next, and I start with Leo since none of her Celios know a water type move. 2 Brick Breaks take her down as she just sets up with Hail and goes for a Full Restore. This brings out Walrein next, who's all the way up at level 80. She knows Sheer Cold, but thankfully we outspeed and I take the risk with Dynamic Punch. We get lucky as we hit for about 60% of her health, but she takes us down with a Surf. I bring out Gardevoir next and we go for Thunderbolt, which does enough to get the kill. The first Glalie comes out and we'll either know Shadow Ball or Crunch. I decide to set up a Reflect as she hits an Icy Wind. Then, we both go for a Light Screen and I switch out to Reyna so I can set up all 3 layers of spikes. Unfortunately, that's all she can do before she goes down, but Percy is able to come out and do good damage with Surf. Light Screen is still up, so I switch to my only remaining physical attacker, Clarice, who tanks a Crunch and an Ice Beam to get the kill with Earthquake. We're faster than Glacier's second Celio, who can just take a Hyper Beam and kill us with Blizzard. I bring out Gardevoir and go for Thunderbolt as she heals, but Light Screen is still up, so it only does about a third. I decide to set up a Reflect before I take her down, since Glacier's next Glalie will know Shadow Ball and Explosion. Then, 2 more Thunderbolts get the kill. We outspeed Glalie, and Psychic does about half as she goes for a Shadow Ball, which we live thanks to Reflect. Then, 1 more Psychic takes her down. Time for Drake. He starts with Shelgon and I start with Reyna so we can set up spikes. Unfortunately, we don't do very much damage to him, so he takes us down after we take about 50% of his health. I bring out Daedalus next and I set up Reflect and Light Screen as we get hit by 2 Rock Tombs. Then Shelgon goes down to a Psychic. Flygon's next and we hang on from Earthquake, but Psychic does under half, so we go down. I bring out Leo next since he's pretty useless into the rest of Drake's team. But since our Reflect wears off, we go down to another Earthquake. Clarice comes out as Light Screen wears off and Earthquake does well over half. Then we finish him off with an Ice Beam. Drake sends out Altaria next, who can kill Clarice with Dragon Breath. I bring out Percy, who takes damage from Double Edge and retaliates with Ice Beam, but Altaria hangs on. Drake heals and then another Double Edge crits to bring us really low, but the recoil takes Altaria down. Next is Kingdra, who finishes us off with Surf. If 4 times super effective Ice Beams can't kill Flygon and Altaria in 1 hit, then I don't think we can beat Drake right now. I'll rematch the first 3 guys a few times to get some more levels and come back. I come back after 5 rematches with Percy and Clarice at level 70. I start with Daedalus this time to set up a Light Screen since Shelgon always goes for Protect on turn 1. Then we take him down with a couple of Psychics. Flygon's next, who outspeeds and finishes off Gardevoir. I switch to Percy to take Flygon down after taking over half his health from an Earthquake. Altaria's next, and we live a Double Edge, and thanks to the recoil damage, Ice Beam gets the kill. But then Kingdra comes out and is able to take us down with Body Slam. I bring out Leo and try Dynamic Punch, and we actually hit. And Kingdra hits himself in confusion. I go for it again on the next turn, and we miss, but that's actually a blessing in disguise since Kingdra hits himself again, which brings his health low enough where 1 more lucky Dynamic Punch gets the kill. Salamence comes out and I try my luck again, but Leo doesn't manage to do anything before going down. I bring out Clarice and we're able to live a Dragon Claw to hit an Ice Beam, which he barely survives, but it looks like we could get the kill with a higher damage roll. He heals up and we Ice Beam again, which he barely survives again. Drake uses his last Full Restore, and we Ice Beam again, which gets the kill. We would not have won that fight without that insane luck with Dynamic Punch against Kingdra. I don't know if we can beat Wallace at this level, but let's see how it goes. Wallace leads with Waylord and I start with Blaziken. We outspeed and go for a Brick Break, which does about a third, but his Water Spout is still strong enough to take us down in one hit. I bring out God of War next, and Thunderbolt brings him into the red, so his next Water Spout doesn't hit very hard. As Wallace heals, 2 Thunderbolts bring him down. Tentacruel's next, and we can survive a Hydro Pump to hit his Psychic for over 50%, but then a Sludge Bomb finishes us off. I bring out Clarice, who also gets hit hard by Hydro Pump, and finishes him off with Earthquake. This brings out Ludicolo, who can get the kill on Clarice with a Surf. I bring out Rainer here, and he goes for Double Team. We go for Aerial Ace, which does about a third, and on the next turn we get hit by Leech Seed. 2 more Aerial Aces take him down. Whiscash is next, and I switch to Percy to shake off the Leech Seed. Unfortunately, Whiscash goes for Amnesia, so our Surf hardly hurts him, and his Earthquake does just under 50% to us. I risk a Hydro Pump on the next turn, and we not only hit, but we get a critical hit to finish him off. Gyarados is next, who can outspeed us and finish off Percy with Hyper Beam. Rain is my last Pokemon, and we go for Aerial Ace, which doesn't do much damage. Thankfully, Gyarados seems to just want to go for Dragon Dance, which lets us bring him low into the yellow, but after 4 turns, he goes for Hyper Beam, which finishes off our last Pokemon. We actually did better than I expected there. We killed 4 of his Pokemon, but that Milotic in the back is his best team member by far. He's going to be level 87, and we still have Pokemon in the low to mid 60s. I'm going to fight the first few Elite Four members again, and come back when my whole team is at least level 70. I try again, this time leading with God of War. Thunderbolt does good damage, but Waylord sets up a Rain Dance. I decide to set up Reflect and Light Screen to help stall out the rain, as he hits us to 50% with 2 Water Spouts. Then we finish him off. Tentacruel's next, and we're faster, so we hit a Psychic for about 3/4. Then we survive his rain boosted Hydro Pump thanks to Light Screen, and take him down with another Psychic. Ludicolo comes out, and I go for Psychic again as he sets up a double team. Light Screen wears off, and I decide to set it back up before we go down. This lets us survive his Giga Drain, but our next Psychic misses anyway. I bring out Rainer, who can take Surfs well thanks to Light Screen, and our Aerial Aces do good damage. We get Wallace to waste 2 of his full restores here. As we bring him into the red for the 3rd time, he manages to take Rainer down. I bring out Leo, hoping to finish him off, but we miss our Flamethrower, so 1 Surf takes us down. Thankfully, Clarice can come out and get the kill with an Ice Beam. Whiscash is next, and I switch in Percy on a weak Surf. A Surf of our own does about 40%, as an Earthquake brings us into the yellow. Thankfully, we get a critical hit Surf to take him down. This gets us to Gyarados, who just outspeeds and kills us with Hyper Beam. I bring in Clarice on his recharge turn, and we hit our own Hyper Beam, which does just over half. But then he goes for a Dragon Dance and takes us down with a critical hit Earthquake. I come back a few levels higher, and with a trick up my sleeve which could help us win. Waylord goes down to 2 Thunderbolts and Tentacruel to 2 Psychics. We get lucky against Ludicolo as he doesn't go for double team, so 2 Psychics bring him into the red as he takes us down with a couple of Surfs. I bring out Rainer, whose first Aerial Ace does half, then her second Aerial Ace gets a low roll, so he lives. Thankfully he just double teams, so 1 more takes him down. Whiscash is next, and I switch to Milotic, who I burned by fighting a wild Vulpix on Mount Pyre. His ability, Marvel Scale, increases defense by 50% when you're statist, so this lets us take Whiscash's Earthquakes pretty well. But Surf still doesn't do very much damage, and we have to keep using Recover to stay healthy. While I'm recovering, Whiscash goes for 2 Amnesias, so now we just have to hope we can crit. This 1v1 with Whiscash takes 5 whole minutes, but eventually we kill him with a crit while our health is still in the green. Gyarados comes out next, and he goes for Dragon Dance as our Ice Beam does about a quarter. On the next turn, he goes for Hyper Beam, which takes Percy down. I bring out Rainer, who can hit Gyarados to quite low health with Aerial Aces, but his Surf does half our health. It looks like if we go for Fly here, we can just get the kill, so I go for it, and we miss. 2 turns later, when we do hit Fly, it turns out it wasn't enough for the kill anyway, so Wallace heals and Gyarados can take Rainer down. I bring out Clarice on the recharge turn and go for a Hyper Beam of our own, which brings him into the red, so next turn he can kill us with Earthquake. Then Leo meets the same fate. Am I gonna have to get my levels into the 80s to beat this guy?
Yes.
I come back after some more rematches, and I also used up the 7 rare candies I had in my bag. God of War's level 86, and we still can't one-shot Waylord or Tentacruel, but we do make it through with our health still in the green. For Ludicolo, I switch into Leo and let him go down so I can get a safe switch into Reina, who can now outspeed and kill Ludicolo with 2 hits. We go for more aerial aces on Whiscash as he sets up an amnesia and takes our health down with really strong surfs. I try to get his health low enough that a surf from Percy can kill, but not too low to make Wallace heal. Apparently I messed up since he heals anyway, and then we have another lengthy exchange between Percy and Whiscash, which ends up with us killing him with our health below half. Gyarados comes out and we can hit an Ice Beam, but Percy goes down. Thankfully Gardevoir can finish him off with Thunderbolt. We finally get to Wallace's ace, Milotic, and we hit a Thunderbolt for over half as he just goes for Toxic. Then we go for our second Thunderbolt, which doesn't get the kill. He keeps going for a cover, but we don't get a high roll or a crit, so eventually we go down to a Surf. I bring out Clarice and Hyper Beam does 75%, but his Surf does over half to us as we recharge. Another Surf takes us down. I feel like I'm going insane. I've spent multiple days grinding levels against the Elite Four, and we're still not strong enough to win. I'll do a few more rematches until Daedalus can one-shot Waylord and Tentacruel, then I'll come back. I've got Gardevoir to level 93. This is enough for the one-hit kill on Wallace's first 2 Pokemon. As Ludicolo comes out, I switch in Leo since I don't want Reina to take damage on the switch. He goes for a double team, and, prepared to let Leo go down, I just click Flamethrower, but we end up hitting and getting a crit to bring him into the red. He goes for a double team, and I decide I might as well keep Leo alive, so I switch in Reina as well as heals and then take him down with 2 aerial aces. We've taken down half of Wallace's team and we haven't lost a single point of HP. Whiscash is next, and I go for a couple of aerial aces as he hits us with Surf. On Reina's last turn, I set up a layer of spikes. Now I can bring out Clarice, who can take Whiscash down with Hyper Beam. Gyarados comes out and does about a third of our health with Earthquake as we recharge. Another Earthquake takes us really low. Then another Hyper Beam takes Gyarados to below half as one more Earthquake takes Clarice down. Gardevoir can come out and outspeed to finish him off with Thunderbolt. So we're back to Milotic, and straight away a Thunderbolt hits him low into the yellow and gets the paralysis. His Surf hardly does any damage, his Berry takes him out of healing range, and one more Thunderbolt gets the kill. It feels good to be done with the Elite Four, but there's one more battle we have to beat until I can say I've completed this challenge. Steven starts with Skarmory and I start with Gardevoir. I go for Thunderbolt and it actually doesn't get the kill. This lets Skarmory go for a Toxic and then Steven heals, but 2 more Thunderbolts take him down. Cradley's next and I switch to Reina. We get confused on the switch and hit ourselves as he sets up Ingrain. His ancient powers do more damage than I was expecting, but thankfully we can set up 3 layers of spikes before we go down. Leo comes out and a Brick Break takes Cradley down to about 50%. Then he misses ancient power thanks to Leo holding a Lax Incense. He was holding that for pretty much the entire Elite Four, and it never activated once. Then we get lucky again as we crit our next Brick Break to get the kill. This brings out Aggron and I go for Flamethrower, but he can just hang on to take us down with 1 Earthquake. I bring out Gardevoir, who can finish him off with 2 more Thunderbolts after he heals. Next is Metagross, and I just decide to set up a Reflect before going down. We actually hang on from his Earthquake with 1 HP, but obviously the poison takes us down. I bring out Percy, who outspeeds and hits a Surf for about 50%. We take his Psychic pretty well, and after he heals with his Citrus Berry, another Surf gets the kill. Claydol's next, and he actually outspeeds to set up a Light Screen as I go for a cover. His Earthquake only does a sliver of damage thanks to Reflect, and our Surf does about a third. Our Reflect wears off as he crits his next Earthquake. After the burn, we're left on just 3 HP. Thankfully, Steven heals here, which gives us the chance to heal too. I recover on the next couple of turns until his Light Screen wears off. After taking another Earthquake, I go for a Hydro Pump, which is so close to being a one-shot, but unfortunately he survives and heals up again. The next few turns are spent recovering and surfing until we can whittle Claydol down. Armal goes last, and 1 Surf gets the kill. Wow, that was fun. And actually quite different to my Platinum challenge. Having a team of 5 rather than 3 made the mid-game so much easier, but the late game so much harder. I can't believe how many Elite 4 rematches I had to do just to beat Wallace. It was also really fun to use some Pokemon like Milotic and Gardevoir that I haven't used for a while. For the next hard mode video, I think I'm going to do Pokemon Heart Gold, Fire Red, or Black too, but leave a comment to let me know what you want to see from me. Also, please consider hitting like and subscribe, as it really helps out me and my channel. Thanks for watching, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.